Hi, how are you? This is Experiments in Digital Storytelling. I am Maddie Barber Bockelman and I work with CultureHub. Experiments in Digital Storytelling is a new initiative between CultureHub and La Mama to work with artists, creative technologists, and more to discover the potential of emerging technologies to create meaningful stories and meaningful experiences for folks online, particularly online in this moment. This was supposed to be an in-person experience in the downstairs at La Mama, but due to the current situation in the world that everyone is experiencing, we had to bring it online. It's kind of crazy that we have programming that can make a somewhat seamless transition to an online venue. So that's really exciting, and it's cool to be working with people who are already here. Um, so this is Experiments in Digital Storytelling. This exactly is an open rehearsal with Double I Studios. Double I Studios is a group that's been working in virtual reality to create theater. We're supporting their work within this program, and what we're about to see is an open rehearsal. It's not a show, it's not a performance, it's sort of an opening up into process. They were in our studio back in August, working on Loveseat, which you'll learn a little bit more about soon, which premiered at the Venice Biennale. And right now we're supporting them as they venture into a new storytelling world called Pandora X. So this is a little teaser basically, and we'll be showing a more fleshed out piece of the theater work itself in May. Um, this thing that we're doing here right now is going to be happening in VR chat, which is sort of the theatrical venue that they're working in. We are connecting with their technologists, actors, our team, all remotely using Live Lab, which is our own experimental software that we've been developing for networked performance collaboration amongst artists and audiences. So yeah, thanks for being with us. I know it's either morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are. I hope you're doing all right. And without further ado, I will welcome Kiira Benzing, who is the director of Double I Studios.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, entire CultureHub team, and thank you, audience that is joining us from wherever you may be, hopefully safe within the comfort of your homes. I love, Maddie, you used the word process. Today is really about process. We're going to share a little bit about our process. We are creating new processes together with you, our digital and virtual audiences. We're going to make yet an even bigger, expanded process. It's really new territory. We love working in virtual reality. We've been working with this medium for a while now. And I'll just give an overview of what we're going to do with you all today over the course of the next hour. We are going to run 2 scenes from an existing production. We're going to do an interactive experiment with those of you on Facebook. You can be adding comments in, and we're actually going to work them into a kind of live audience collective experiment. And then we're going to show you something that we're working on, this production of Pandora X, which is really new. We have just begun writing it, maybe even as old as a week ago. So we're really going to show you something just hot off the presses, and it will be chaotic and beautiful all at once. And something that we've been playing with my studio team and I in New York City is this format that we're calling VR theater, where we're actually performing to 2 audiences simultaneously. Usually that's a live audience in a theater with everyone gathered together close to each other in this dark and intimate magical space. And now that live audience is you guys watching online from your homes. You're now the live audience. And then simultaneously, we have the virtual world running in parallel, and that will gather a potential virtual audience. Today, we're keeping that small as we're running these experiments. So that's what we're doing. And we are going to show you a trailer to look back at our very first experiment in this format which we performed at the Venice International Film Festival just about 8 months ago in this September of 2019. It was a production we built amazingly quickly in roughly about 6 weeks with playwright Mac Rogers, and that was from casting to 3D modeling to creating the virtual world, everything. So we're going to take you inside that world and play the trailer from Loveseat.
I've never met anyone like you, perfect partner. You're like an electric blanket plugged into the sun.
I will transform into a colossus of organization to protect you, my shield of preparedness.
Let's fly.
No. Don't fly the perfect partner over a portal to another dimension. Are you nuts?
He's walking where no bee ever has.
Huh. But he landed anyway.
The fresh chance to pair an ordinary someone with the perfect partner.
I see a face that's still ready to just jump into the unknown and witness nature's like chaotic wonders with exhilaration instead of fear.
Keeping a thing in maintenance. That is a daily, hourly battle against every force that exists.
If you saw your perfect partner sitting in that chair, what would you see?
So joining us here now, live from across the country, we have Jonathan David Martin. As you may see him in headset, he can hear us and he can see those of you in the virtual world, and he is on the stage of Loveseat now. And Jonathan originated the role of Bruce in the production of Loveseat. So Jonathan David Martin in California, and Jen Harris, who is here with us in New York City. Jen originated the role of Abby. And we're just gonna run a scene that happens in the production. It is technically scene 5. And what's happening here is these two characters of Abby and Bruce have been competing for the love of the perfect partner. And we kind of did this production in a very light and sort of presentational style, but there are these undercurrents running through the production, these themes about loneliness and connection. And these two characters are not in love, and they have different opinions about what love means to them. And they find themselves magically on this reality competition show in this virtual world, and they're competing for the love of the perfect partner, which happens to be represented to the audience as an empty chair. And what happens here is these two characters are going to, this is kind of their second round of competition right now. They're going to vie for this, and they're both assigned to compete for different audiences. And so Bruce is assigned to the virtual audience, and Abby is assigned to the live audience, which in this case is you guys online. So I'm going to give them the line that the host gives them to set off this competition, and they're both going to compete for your attention. Okay, Abby and Bruce, let the interviews begin.
Look, there's a reason I chose bees over lovers. I dated a lot of mediocre people in my life. Weak people, unimaginative people, or the total opposite, like controlling people who wanted my life to match theirs. I kept on believing, and I kept on being let down, until I made a momentous decision for myself. I'm leaving the game forever. I'd rather be lonely than disappointed. And I've stuck to that decision for years. And for me to go back on that now, I mean, it would have to be someone amazing. Well, the perfect partner is that amazing. You better believe I'm not gonna let Bruce stand in my way. I'm not here to make friends. There's nothing I won't do to win this game.
Well, of course, it would be Abby who'd be trying to ruin things for me. I mean, it's been that way since the moment she moved in 2 years ago. Like, always trying to act like I'm the one with the problem. Oh, what's wrong, Bruce? Don't you like honey? Well, actually, no, I don't. It's thick, it's sticky, it gets into every nook and cranny. I mean, it is impossible to clean. Every time I try to establish some exquisite order in this building, she comes along and she pours that stuff all over it. But I never thought that she would try to drip her beeswax over my one chance of happiness. And hey, not just mine. I mean, the perfect partners too, because I know that they would be happier with me. I'm not here to make friends, and she is not the only one with a sting in her tail.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, guys. So, Jonathan, I'm here in VR with you right now, and I see that you're kind of hovering in this quadrant, which is typical of your blocking from Venice. Why don't you feel free to use more of the stage, and even if you want to teleport into the audience. I know we're just like the theaters in New York, we're without a lot of audience right now, but feel free to use the whole stage.
Great, you want me to just pick it up from the top of that?
Yeah, Jen, could you start and give Jonathan the line just before? I know that we've kind of rearranged this from how we originally did it. Could you just give him a little bit of your, maybe if you come from, well, the perfect partner is that amazing?
Yeah, sure. You ready, Jonathan?
All set.
Okay. Well, the perfect partner is that amazing. And you better believe I'm not going to let Bruce stand in my way. I'm not here to make friends. And there's nothing I won't do to win this game.
Well, of course, it would be Abby who'd be trying to ruin this for me. Always trying to act like I'm the one with the problem. Oh, what's wrong with bees, Bruce? Don't you like honey? Well, actually, I don't. It is thick. It's sticky. It gets into every nook and cranny. It's impossible to clean. Every time I try to establish some exquisite order in this building, she comes along and she pours that stuff all over it. But I never thought that she would try to ruin my one chance of happiness, dripping her beeswax all over it. And hey, not just mine, I mean, the perfect partners too. Because I know that they would be happier with me. I'm not here to make friends. And she is not the only one with a sting in her tail.
Nice, guys. Awesome. So now, why don't we skip forward to a later scene that happens in the production, and this is going to be scene 8. And so what's happening in this scene is it's quite a moment in tonal change for the production. It's really this moment of a kind of reckoning and reasoning, this kind of break in reality. The scene that we just showed you was actually a moment where Abby took her headset off and addressed the live audience. And this is another moment where that happens for her, as her perception of what's in the chair, she's realizing, is actually different from that of what Bruce has been seeing in the chair. And so I'm going to let them shift into this moment and, get a little real with you guys as we take it here. So Jen, whenever Abby is ready, whenever you're ready.
Well, I don't see a beard. What I see is a clean, hairless face. An earnest face. A young face. A face that's still ready to believe anything. A face that hasn't learned the habit of sneering. A face that doesn't know what kind of adult it wants to be, is open to deciding that in tandem with someone else. A face that's ready to just plunge into the unknown, that looks at nature's chaotic wonders with exhilaration instead of fear. A face that turns every corner expecting to see something amazing instead of a fist in the teeth. A face that thinks that shadows hide treasures instead of claws. A face worth breaking a promise you made to yourself for. A face worth giving up on giving up for.
It's weird.
What is?
But I can see it while you say it. I mean, you know, why you say those words, I can see it, but
Then it goes back to what you see,
yeah.
which is what?
Well, I mean, there's the beard, of course, but it's not about the beard. It's about all of the beard type things that I see there.
What's a beard type thing?
Oh well, it's a thing that you can make perfect, but it'll never stay that way. Meaning that it will always need maintenance, and someone that wants to do that maintenance. Because
Yeah.
So this is an experiment, like we said at the beginning. We have a lot of feeds coming into the system from all over the world. Our moderator is going to be joining us from Milan in Italy later. And some of you might be trying to watch in VR right now. Our actor, Jonathan, is still in there right now, still embodying his avatar and character of Bruce. So we're going to take it from the top of scene 8. And again, this is this place in the show where our two characters are having this realization that they've been seeing someone different in this chair, which of course to the audience looks like an empty chair. And I think we're all feeling these themes of emptiness and loneliness these days. So thank you for those of you who hung in there with us. And again, sorry for this technical glitch while we pushed all of this technology together. So Jen and Jonathan, as Abby and Bruce, why don't you take it from the top of scene 8?
Okay. Well, I don't see a beard. What I see is a clean, hairless face, an earnest face, a young face, a face that's still ready to believe anything, a face that hasn't learned the habit of sneering, a face that still doesn't know what kind of adult it wants to be and is open to deciding that in tandem with someone else. A face that's ready to plunge into the unknown, that looks at nature's chaotic wonders with exhilaration instead of fear. A face that turns every corner expecting to see something amazing instead of a fist in the teeth. A face that thinks that shadows hide treasures instead of flaws. A face worth breaking a promise you made to yourself for. A face worth giving up on giving up for.
It's weird.
What is?
I can see it while you say it. But while you say those words, I can see it. But then it goes back to
What you see?
yeah.
Which is what?
Well, well, there's the beard, but it's not about the beard. It's about all of the beard type things that I see there.
What's a beard type thing?
Well, it's a thing that you can work on and make perfect, but it'll never stay that way. Meaning that it will always need maintenance. And someone that wants to do that maintenance. Because, I mean, if you think about it, maintenance is the hardest thing to do on this earth. Storing above enchanting cloudlets, that only takes a moment or two, but keeping those hedgerows trimmed when all they want to do is grow, but that is a whole life's work. Maintenance is a daily, hourly battle against every force that exists, against disrepair, grease, dirt, aging, danger, against time. Keeping a thing in a state of organization and cleanliness. It's creative. It's quixotic. It's standing up in the face of decay and saying, everything that you accomplished today, I'm going to roll that right back. You're going to have to come back tomorrow and try again. I mean, maintenance is a battle that you always lose. But it's a battle worth fighting. And you can create so much new while you're fighting. And that's what I see. The chance to take the maintenance that I've mastered in the rest of my life and bring it into love.
And as you're saying it, I can see it.
But as soon as I stop,
It goes back in their mind again.
Beautiful, guys. Thank you. Thank you for doing that again. Thank you for staying in character and all your patience, and the same to you, digital audience. So, Jonathan, I'm going to let you change domains now and teleport over to the Pandora domain. Head on over to Mount Olympus, and I'm going to see you over there. Great. You know what? Actually, maybe I'm gonna try and teleport through that too. And we're gonna do this audience experiment now, and we're gonna bring up something called Slido. And for those of you that are watching online, we are gonna need your Facebook comments. So please, Facebook viewers, we need you to watch and send comments to these questions that we're gonna be asking you about. Oh, great. I think I made it through the portal in time. Excellent. So while Jonathan and I head over to Olympus virtually, Jonathan, I'll see you over there. We're going to try out this exciting audience experiment. So I've got this question up on this website that we're playing with called Slido, and we're going to build a word collage here. Eventually that's going to take over on the left side of the screen. You'll see that Mount Olympus will change into this Slido image. And we've got these questions for you guys. So for those of you on Facebook, can you type in a response to the location of your last dream? And Jen, how about you? Do you remember, do you dream? Do you remember any of your dreams?
I actually don't dream very vividly, but I did have a dream the other night that I was on a street somewhere. I was on a street.
On the street. Okay, so we're going to put street in. And for those of you on Facebook,
yeah, we got one.
We're taking a look at your, a dark shifting hypercube. Wow, we've got a dark shifting hypercube. This is from our video artist, Michael. That makes a lot of sense. I can only imagine that.
Kiira, Toby Lawrence says beach.
Beach, beautiful.
Julia Baker says outdoors. She was outdoors when she dreamed.
Really nice.
Ulrich says his grandmother's kitchen.
Oh, that must be a lovely place.
Mac Rogers, our writer of Loveseat, says a bus.
Awesome. We've got Angelique. These are some other virtual reality creators that are jumping in here through our digital stream. Angelique has near a tree, and Kim has got a lawn chair. Michael on the beach. Beautiful, guys.
Michael spends a lot of time in VR.
Yes, clearly. Maybe he lives there.
Yeah, he probably does. Alyssa says countryside.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty.
These are some amazing locations. And some of them even have some overlapping themes I can see. So I'm gonna change it to a new question, guys. Here we go. We're gonna change it to something that deals with colors. So CultureHub team, if we update the Slido, it should change over to these colors right now. Awesome, beautiful, blue, yellow.
Yeah.
I see a pink.
And the question is, what colors did you see in your last dream?
Yeah.
Mine was blue. Black and white. Technicolor.
Ooh, I like that one.
Technicolor.
We could do a little musical there, right? Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Green. Not my favorite musical.
Do you have a favorite musical, Jen?
I actually think Hairspray is a perfect musical. To be honest.
I was talking about Silence.
Well, I didn't want to. Silence musical is the best musical ever written, but I didn't want to self-promote too deeply.
For those of you in the New York theater scene, you may have seen Jen perform the Jodie Foster character in Silence.
Angelique says turquoise.
Turquoise, that's a beautiful color.
Now we're on musicals. Michael Shernick musical. Nope, movie doesn't count. Gray. Gray.
Gray, amazing. Really, really great colors. Thank you, digital audience. I love this. Thank you for being a part of this experiment. I'm going to take it to one final question, which is going to take us really into the land of VR, where we're going to get back to Jonathan soon. And so this last question is, what superpower would you like to have? Flying. Yeah, that's a really good one. I like that one, Songmin.
Could a superpower be like curing a virus? Like a virus killer? I think that would be right now.
Jen, that's brilliant. Why not?
Seems a little universal. I don't know how you... To be invisible, flying. Angelique says to be invisible. Ulrich says flying. Kim says flying. Alyssa says flying.
I see from Michael the ability to stop time.
Yeah.
I also liked Jen's ability to cure a virus.
Yeah, how can we put that into like 2 words? Virus killer? No.
Virus extinguisher.
That's a good one. Sure, virus. I see it there. I see. Invisibility. Toby says invisibility.
Absolutely. These are really, really marvelous. So we're going to experiment with all of these ideas that you've given us here and generated collectively, and we're going to think about ways that we might be able to integrate them into our virtual production going forward. So thank you so much, live audience, for doing this experiment with Jen and I, helping us build out this word cloud of potential. And we're going to come back to VR. Jen's going to disappear off stage as she does. And we're going to find Jonathan in the virtual world. There he is. He's back. And he's going to play with this new monologue that Alyssa Landry, a writer from Pandora X, has crafted for him. It's all in verse. He just got the text a handful of days ago, so he's probably going to call for line. And I'm going to be juggling VR with him and also cueing him on lines in case he needs them. So this is really new, really experimental. Welcome to our new domain that we just got uploaded on VR Chat. You know, shout out to the platform. We're excited to be playing with this new platform in virtual reality, this social VR platform where we can all gather together in this exciting temple and space and magical space. So Jonathan, as your Zoop character, I'm gonna let you take it from the top of this temple and find your way down to the dais and just take it whenever you're ready. Yeah. Take your time. Take your time. Call out for line. Sorry, yes, Jonathan. There's a jump in headset.
You all ready? Get jump in. Jump in.
Okay.
I'll rehearse this.
Okay, Jonathan, shoot. So whenever you're ready.
Great. Satyrs and nymphs of the forest and streams, muses of Greece who give glory through song, goddesses, gods, awake from your sleep, come hither, come nigh, and join the throng. I, the great Zeus, do so command. Mine is the power to make a man strong. I humble the proud and raise up the obscure. Whomsoever shall call me wrong will suffer my vengeance swift and sure. I, the great Zeus, do so command. Hephaestus. 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 Attend to me now. Hephaestus, the sculptor. Come, Aphrodite, of beauty untold. Athena, bring now your wisdom and valor. And Hermes, bring your voice strong and bold. Are you here? I feel you near. Lend me your ears and eyes, my friends and allies, for the time has come to strike again, to shake with fear the hearts of all men. Prometheus! Did you think my vengeance forgotten? That your misbegotten act would be lost in the mists of Mount Olympus? Do you not recall the destruction and danger? The thunder, the bolts of anger which from my hand rain down upon the heads of man. A plague upon you for bringing fire. A plague on all men who embrace their desire. And by that beloved object shall know a fate most abject, living in misery, bereft, without a shred of hope left. Did you think I'd forget my sacred vow? That the passage of time would efface it somehow? Nothing is forgotten.
Really nice, Jonathan. Thank you, virtual camera team, for all you guys are doing, changing up cameras and following Jonathan around in this space. So Jonathan, I've got an idea for you. Let's play with something where you change avatars. Can you actually stay down here on this dais, right where you are? And I've got this idea where you did with the character of Bruce and Loveseat, and you grew really tall. You've got some avatars that are a little bit bigger. Could you pick a bigger avatar and just start from your line Prometheus and just take it from Prometheus to the end and try it in a bigger avatar?
Great.
I want to see what this does to your sense of height, sense of scale, see if this gives you a different perspective for when you get to these lines.
Love it.
And if you need a line, feel free to call line. I'm here on book.
Prometheus! Did you think my vengeance forgotten? That your misbegotten act would be lost in the mists of Mount Olympus? Do you not recall the destruction and danger? The thunder, the bolts of anger which from my hand rained down upon the heads of man? A plague upon you for stealing fire. A plague on all men who embrace their desire. And I, that beloved object, shall know a fate most abject, living in fear, bereft, without a shred of hope left. Did you think I would forget my sacred vow? That the passage of time would efface it somehow? Nothing is forgotten.
Really interesting. Thank you so much for trying that. I like it. I think there's something interesting happening there with the size of this character and what that's doing to your body posture and your voice. Great. So we are going to let Jonathan come out of VR, and we're all going to head into a Q&A now. And I'll remind everybody that the avatars that we're using right now in the Zeus scenes in this Pandora, these are temporary avatars. They're avatars that are created by other creators that we found online in VR chat. They belong to other stories and worlds, and we have not designed ours, customized ours yet. But if you are a VR 3D modeler and you want to work with us, let us know, because we are looking for the right creators to partner with to create the customized world that we'll be building for this Pandora Mount Olympus. So we're going to come into a Q&A and bring the Loveseat creative team back. Jen is going to come back to the stage. Mac Rogers, our writer, is going to join us, and I'm going to pass the torch over entirely. And I'm going to not talk very much. I can just be a really quiet human, and pass the torch over to Kiara Spagnoli-Gabardi, who is joining us all the way from Milan in Italy. And keep in mind that now that we're connecting more devices to this, everything may disappear again, and we may have to, re-import things. And we're really pushing all the technology in this system here. So we're gonna bring like 5 video feeds to the screen. We're gonna try and see if we can pull this off for this Q&A. And those of you on Facebook in the comments, feel free to drop in questions for the Loveseat team, for our actors, what it's like for them to be doing what they're doing, for our writer, Mac, and Kiara, over to you. I think we're just maybe she's just going to come to the screen, to the stage in just a moment here.
It's easy to get lost backstage here.
It is. There we are. Everyone's on stage. We all made it to the virtual stage. Exciting.
Exciting indeed. And thank you so much for this oniric experience through Loveseat and then Slido and Pandora. So I would like to begin with you, Kiira, since you're the form. And I recall admiring Loveseat in Venice at the film festival, and I truly agreed with Michel Reillac, who sought a touch of Lumiere Brothers, a budding new media at its very beginning. And I wanted to know you, as a pioneering VR artist who manages to blend in such an archaic medium as that of theatre. What was your reaction in Venice and seeing how the live audience was engaged in this completely new experience?
Well, we're definitely blending forms here, and I feel like I'm very much an explorer and an experimenter. So the title of this whole series with CultureHub and La Mama is very fitting. I do feel like we are experimenting in this medium and these multiple medias that we're combining. And even here right now, with everyone gathered online, this is yet another format for us. We intended to do this live to a regular theater audience. And still maintaining our parallel world also to a live audience, but in VR. So those are still two live components, which we have playing here, but this was not the intended format. So this was yet a new venture for us. And I mean, the audience in Venice was wonderful. They were very present. I didn't know how they might react to the actors being on stage in headsets for the majority of the production. About 75% of the time they're in headsets. Only in some key moments do they come out and talk to the audience face to face. And at the same time, they're getting all of these projection screens of what's happening from the virtual world. I wasn't sure if that would read or mean anything to the audience, but we had some really interesting conversations with audience after about how they did understand that there was this virtual world and how they did pick up on these really touching themes about loneliness in this production, which just feels incredibly timely for us to be dealing with right now in these times.
Absolutely. I find it's a very nourishing art for the soul, VR right now that we're all locked indoors. I wanted to share the similar insight with the actors, Jen and Jonathan, starting with Jen, because I know you, Jen, have a very solid background in theatre, and I wanted to know what it feels like to perform in VR, breaking that fourth wall. In Loveseat, I saw you switching from the theatre to this digital realm, and both you and Jonathan were acting with this heavy gear. So what is it like to perform in VR?
Thank you. I actually, breaking the fourth wall by lifting the headset up and showing the audience was sort of the most familiar, of course, because that's the most close to me being able to see and feel an audience. It did take a lot of getting used to the VR, just because you knew an audience was out there, you just couldn't see them. And even though on a stage, sometimes with lights, you can't see the audience anyway, but there was something about being in a space that you knew wasn't the literal space and still performing, knowing that people are watching you and hoping that makes it make sense. But after a while, I got used to it. And the stage that they built, that we built virtually, I got used to it. And that just felt like the stage. And when I saw Jonathan's avatar, that just felt like Jonathan. And I knew that he was near me and around me, but anytime I just got used to it. And that with the blocking that we did, the virtual blocking, that was sort of the trickiest thing, but once we got that down, it actually felt very comfortable to me. And it was different, but like anything else with practice and like good blocking, it feels like acting.
Well, I can imagine it must have been quite an experience. And obviously, Jonathan, if you want to add some of that, and with you, I would also like to expand on the themes of Loveseat, which are very pertinent to the way the contemporary world interacts through all these apps and dating sites. And I know your past works revolved around socially relevant topics. So perhaps what themes in Loveseat were very dear to you?
Yeah, I think thematically, one of the things I really resonated with was this theme of identity. And of course, anytime that we're talking about our virtual selves and our corporeal selves. There's a real conscious design thing that we're doing with our virtual selves. How do we want to appear to people? How do we want to present ourselves in a virtual space? Because we can curate our personas and identities in a really particular way. And so I found that really fascinating to kind of be in a show that was really pushing the exploration of that topic in a really what felt like a really new and interesting way. I think that there's also this question about what is connection and what is love. So, you know, when this is both sort of it's a bit of a meta theme in the show, right? We're trying to connect as performers to two different audiences, and then to try to connect to each other on two different levels as actors, both with our avatars and in the space together. And the characters are really trying to do that as well, and they're trying to figure out what they want. Like they really like having their space, and yet they sort of realize that they actually not only want companionship, but they would rather have real companionship than just their own idea in their own hermetically sealed world. And so I think that that's a very universal topic, but it's certainly one that I think we're all grappling with in new ways because of both because of the pandemic and also because of technology.
Definitely. I found it very fascinating the way our playwright, Mac, to which I'm going to be asking the next question, was very much delving into this idea of what meaning we give to words. When in Scene 8 you were discussing a beard type thing, it very much evoked Shakespeare. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And of course, I wanted to know from Mac, what defines the perfect partner, and how was the writing process to create a parallelism between this existential idea of love and the more pragmatic and digital dating that occurs nowadays?
Well, it's funny. I have a big, I had a big sort of chasm to cross in order to like engage with this topic at all on a couple levels. I mean, this is one of many ways in which I feel like the old timer getting to play with the kids on this project, because everything I'm the guy who's been writing like plays my whole life. I don't know any of this technology. I'd never worked with VR before, and so like when Kiira approached me about it, I was like, "You're going to have to walk me. I don't even know what the script should look like in this genre." And she said, "No, I approached you because you're a playwright. Let's write a play, but a play that can kind of explode outward into the kinds of realities that you wouldn't, just put into like the more, that you wouldn't put in a black box theater space like I've always been writing for." Now you mentioned Shakespeare and the Rose by Any Other Name. There was a lot of that when we got to the process of defining how the love story was going to work. In this, like how it could be something that we could be rhapsodic and inspirational, but at the same time, as you say, have that kind of pragmatic touch that could make audiences believe that they'd seen a genuine love story happen right in front of their eyes. A big part of it was actually starting with some of those Shakespearean traditions in the form of the host. It was like, could you actually have, instead of the Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream, who makes people fall in love for no reason, just enchants them, makes them fall in love with each other, purely because of a compulsory magic enchantment. What if Bartholomew Best, our host in Loveseat, brought people together in a much more consensual and clear-eyed way? What if we could take the sort of rhapsodic Shakespearean imagery of Midsummer Night's Dream, but turn it into something that the two people falling in love felt like they were full partners with agency in it, and just something that audiences could believe. So the beard moment that you're talking about right there at the middle, that was the crucial turning point of the script. I'm not exactly sure how many drafts we had to go through to find the beard section, but we definitely, I mean, we don't smoke cigars, but if we did, we would have lit up cigars when we came up with the beard idea, because we've been looking for that turning point. What's the moment in which our two partners, in which Abby and Bruce figure out that they're seeing different things. Because the moment that they realize they're seeing different things, that's the moment when they can actually build a bridge to each other. That's the moment when they are clear-eyed, they see the differences, and seeing those differences, they can imagine a way to bridge those differences. The beard was the moment where Bruce references the beard. Abby says, whoa, 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 wait a second. I don't see a beard. Then they each describe what they are individually seeing, hear those differences, and only at that moment can begin to imagine a world in which those differences are reconcilable.
Right. It's basically projecting how each person is projecting his or her idea. I would like to wrap up this section with Kiira to delve into more the VR dating situation. Of course, you portray it in a fictional world. I would like to know from you if you think this could become a thing, since VR is developing so quickly in all sorts of ways.
Sure. I think this would be a very fun competition show for people dating and looking for something new. Why not? I mean, Matt could write an app. Our actors could be involved to add questions, competitions, and things that people could go through in VR together to get to know one another. Sure. I think it's very imaginative. It's probably better than other things that are out there right now. I think we've got, I'm noticing
Jen and Jonathan have created the role model.
Sorry, Kiara, you got cut off.
One last question. I'm informed. One more question from the audience. I'm informed. They wanted to know the different experience of acting within the VR world.
Sure. So I'll jump in first. I think acting in VR is for me, it reminds me a lot of being a puppeteer, and because the avatar essentially is a puppet. It's sort of like a full mask that you're wearing, and you can't convey physically expression and meaning and thought and emotion the same way you do with your own body. So it actually reminds me a lot of that. There's something also that's interesting when you're both performing in a live space in front of a live audience and also in front of a virtual audience, in that you're trying to juggle two spaces at the same time and two senses of awareness between those two spaces. And actually, today I was thinking about again how everything that's being captured today with what I'm doing in VR is actually being captured by a virtual camera. And so there's this other layer of I'm doing virtual theater for a camera. And so those are all very unique things in terms of where my head is at as an actor, as opposed to just being on stage.
Wow, fascinating. Jen, do you have some insight for us in these regards?
Yeah. Again, the question was from Toby. What are some differences that actors experience that the audience would not think of when acting on stage versus acting in headset? And just to piggyback on what Jonathan was saying, when we were in headset, we also had a camera crew shooting us in VR. So when if you were in headset, you were watching it. We had to know we had to sort of learn where the camera was. So not only were you acting for stage, you were also acting for camera. So you kind of had to get an idea, like when you flew up to the cloud, you had to look, there was a cloud I flew up to. And then when I flew up to the cloud, I knew I had to look down this way because that's where the camera angle is coming, so that people in VR didn't see the back of my avatar. So there was some blocking for camera that we were doing that the audience didn't know. Hopefully they didn't know. They just saw it perfectly on the screen if they were live in Venice or in VR if they were in VR.
Well, excellent. I look forward to see more of your performances in VR with Kiira directing you, and of course with her amazing tech team coordinating everything. And we shall move on to them for more questions.
Kiira, we're back to you.
Yes, we're back. All right, we're joined by the fantastic and amazing tech team. And I'm going to be starting with a question for Mark. I actually had my own, but we also have a brilliant question from Michael Woods joining us in the audience, who wanted to know, I'll read it out to you, so it's his words exactly. I don't know if this is possible, but assuming much faster processing, is the performance able to be recorded not just as a video, but as a Unity asset?
Yeah, so that's actually a pretty involved question. There was a company that was looking into doing this. I think they're defunct right now. What's involved, so we can't do it quite yet with the VR chat platform, although VR chat does run in Unity. Theoretically, we could do that in the future with some development. But it is theoretically possible to record a performance in such a way that it would exist almost as game assets that then people could go in and see again. So like pre-recorded immersive theater that you can then move through and walk around in. Basically, just for everyone, the way that this sort of works is we're using avatars that are rigged with skeletons. And what each one of the pieces of the skeleton, there's about 20 pieces in this skeleton. Obviously, a real human one, there's like over 200. But each one of the pieces of the skeleton has what's called a transform that tells you how it moves in space. So if you recorded how each one of those joints moved and transformed and scaled through the world, you could then record that and play it back to somebody to see the performance later. The technology for that would need to be coded. It doesn't quite exist yet, but it is clear. Hope that answers the question.
I see. Well, thanks for clarifying this. Maybe more philosophically tech question for our Lara, since I was fascinated by your experience also in mental wellness that blended with virtual reality. And if you could tell us a bit more about the interconnectedness issues related in Loveseat, and of course, how this can be beneficial for a virtual audience, considering right now we're all living in isolation and alienation. So how it can bring us together, and also give examples of this through the work you did on Loveseat.
Definitely. That's a very thoughtful question. I think in today's state, people often think that technology draws us apart, but I don't think that's the case. I think technology is a way to bring us together. And there's different ways of using technology as a medium, whether it's through narrative and storytelling or through different applications with mixed reality, that you can draw people together by making it seem like they're in the same room together, or they're participating in the same activity together, or creating a sense of community. I think that's so necessary right now, and especially because we've been forced into this situation due to COVID-19. So there's different ways and different studios I've been fortunate enough to work with besides Kiira's that have been trying to solve this problem of how do we connect people. So it's interesting to see the ways that people have applied mixed reality technology to make this possible. One piece I'm working on, Lou Ward, he's brilliant out of Seattle. He's trying to teach people what Alzheimer's is really like by putting it in first person perspective. So he created a narrative around that experience. What Kiira is doing with the stage is incredible. She's connecting the audience with the actors and making them in the same environment together, kind of with no proscenium. So the way that technology has evolved the arts is tremendous, and the way that it's going to connect individuals in the future, I just can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Well, definitely. I agree with you on this sense of community that VR creates. I experienced it at the Venice Film Festival. And I wanted to ask a question to Christopher Topino, because obviously being part of the Loveseat team, he was there setting up this entire dreamlike stage at the Lazzaro Vecchio Island, which actually used to be a hospital that cured people during the plague epidemic. So we can relate to it right now. And since you are so accustomed to VR stages, what was it, both from a technical and perhaps a more personal and spiritual point of view, to create a VR theater in that setting?
So when we arrived, I think Mark was the first one to point out that this many 100-year-old space is an extremely dusty location, and we're trying to very quickly set up 14 very powerful gaming computers, and we were immediately concerned that that all this dust in the air was going to affect the computers. Yeah, I think the challenges of being on an island in an ancient or relatively ancient facility kind of just added to the stakes the whole time. Even the first few days that we were there, there was no consistent food or water on the island, so we have to wait for a boat to get back to the other side to be able to actually get any food or coffee, which is pretty essential for me at the moment. Then as far as actually rigging, it was really important that nothing could actually touch the structure because it was so old and so protected. And so we had to, we were not allowed to actually rig any of our sensors or any of our wiring to the actual beams in the space. And then lastly, I think part of the power of the experience being there, and one of the things that made it, so surreal was that, I mean, this was a space where hundreds, thousands of people perished during the plague, and you know, in the room just next door to where we were setting up, you know, there were etchings on the wall of patients who had been quarantined there, you know, hundreds of years ago. So, yeah, the eerie and magical are sort of the words that come to mind there. I'm not sure if that fully answers the question, but that's where we're at.
Oh, it definitely does answer the question. We have one more question for Chris Dawes from the audience, and or from any other of you who want to jump into the conversation. There's one of our members from the audience who would like to know how many actors can be on stage at one time, and this is Kim Kasani who's asking.
Yeah, I can take that one. So the domains have their own limits. You can't generally have more than 30 to 40 people without seeing a performance drop. So, because what it's essentially doing is you're sharing a connection with multiple people, 30 people at the same time. So these domains usually can handle 30 to 40 people. What we can do is actually similar to what Michael Woods was asking about before. You can create several instances where some people are in different rooms, but the actors themselves are sort of interdimensional and can be seen in multiple dimensions, like throughout these various instances. But they would only see the people that are in the first instance, but their performances would then be carried to these other instances where other audiences would be. But for them, they wouldn't be able to interact with the actors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one more curiosity from our audience members. Do the technicians come from, do all of you guys come from creative backgrounds or more engineer and software ones?
I can start. I come from a more creative background. I started more in traditional film. The next logical leap was 360 video, which was popular for a while. But I've gotten increasingly into these room scale VR experiences, 60 degrees of freedom. And while I do have that creative background, I've been definitely supplementing it with the knowledge of Unity, which is a game engine that a lot of these experiences are built in. Even Unity is a basis for creating these worlds and everything that you see in VR chat, and the avatars are also built in Unity. So if you're interested in this space, you can definitely start off creative, but you will, it helps to develop your technological background.
One of the things that I think is amazing about mixed reality, and I'm sure everyone on the double IT will agree, is that you need to take all your different knowledge sets and things that you never thought would be become tangible or that you would use. For example, I was an English major and I minored in brain and cognitive science. And I find that mixed reality is a beautiful fusion of the two, because you're dealing with perception and how you see the world and what's real and what does connection and interaction mean. And technology is a means to make that fit together better. So I think in all different facets, mixed reality and technology and immersive technology, you're not just dealing with that necessary software background, but everything that you can bring to the table to make it better for people and their experience is important.
I personally
and it
come from the
definitely is a
business.
very interdisciplinary topic and discipline. And yes, please continue.
Yeah, my apologies. I also come from a business background and a creative background. So I'm a corporate product manager and a documentary filmmaker. And in my day job, I actually briefly worked in Unity to create a technical pavilion for a show that we were doing. And that's how I got interested in virtual reality. And Kiira and I have actually collaborated on documentary film projects before. So it was really exciting to be able to collaborate with her in the VR world as well.
On my end,
Excellent.
Similar to Mark,
Christopher Tupino, a very, very quick background on you so we can move on to the next segment.
Yeah, I was just saying similar to Mark, I started in film. I have been in consumer technology for quite a while, and VR has sort of merged those two tracks in my life. So I'll leave it.
Well, thank you guys for sharing your background. It feels like many people watching us today might decide to change jobs since virtual reality is such a fascinating and educational field. Next up, we will be bringing the creative Pandora X. So stay with us for the Q&A.
And Kiara, we are back.
Yes, we are. And we are joined by Alyssa Landry, who is a writer of Pandora X, and she also collaborated on Loveseat. And here I see you and Jonathan, I assume. There he is. So I would like to start with Alyssa, since we still haven't had the chance to chat. Well, first of all, what inspired you into creating, into bringing the Greek myth of Pandora to VR, and how timely you feel it is to show it now, that in a way it is almost as if we were living those evils of the world being unleashed as a jar was opened, and hope remaining there at the end of that jar, waiting for us to move on.
Yes, well, I have to say that is a very timely coincidence. At the beginning, we were really searching for our newest subject. And I believe it was Mark and Laura who first came up with the idea of doing something from Greek mythology. I know that for both Kiira and myself, that's Greek mythology has been something that's fascinated us since we were very small. I remember when I was, probably about 12, rewriting all the Greek myths and making a book for my younger sisters and reading it to them. So we went through our minds through quite a few different female heroines in Greek mythology until we hit on Pandora. And the reason we hit on Pandora is because we discovered in doing our research that the original Pandora myth that predated the version that we all now know, in that oral myth, before it was written down, Pandora was actually an earth goddess, and she was the person who led souls into the heavens, led them up to Mount Olympus after they had passed. And there was a festival where she opened up these wonderful, enormous jars and released not only the evils, but all of the good into the world. So she was really the nature goddess who was in charge of keeping balance in the world. And little by little, her myth was rewritten actually by men. And the version that we all know today was written by Hesiod. And he apparently was a crusty old bachelor who did not like women. And he transformed that myth into Pandora, who it was by woman that all of the evils were going to come into the world. And then still later, a different Christian priest actually in a sermon transformed that enormous jar into a very small box and thereby transformed Pandora, this whole myth from something that was released into the world into, in other words, it was released by a really small portable object instead of being released by a huge immovable object. And that changed everything. So what Kiira and I are curious about exploring with Pandora is when your story has been rewritten by someone else, how can you take charge of that story again? And one of the things that has always bothered me a little bit about the Pandora myth is if by opening it, she let out all of the evils, and by closing it, she left hope in the world, well, how can that be? If either you open it and you let the evils and hope out, or you close it and mankind doesn't get what's in the box. So we are hoping to take this forward and turn it into Pandora's real story, which is that she releases all good things out into the world. And I think at this time, when we're all going through the pandemic, that is what we need. We need hope out there in the entire world. And so that's what our protagonist, our heroine, is going to be doing, is coming to the realization that if you want to bring hope to the world, you have to release it out. So that's a very long-winded answer, but that's what we're hoping to do.
Oh no, actually, thank you. It wasn't, it was a pleasure to listen to and to see all the connections with how females were portrayed. It made me think of Adam and Eve, that also Eve was female who was blamed in the story. As regards the performance, I wanted to go obviously to Jonathan, and considering your background in Broadway, I know you acted in Warhorse and you were performing an actual horse there. So it was interesting for me and for us and the audience to know how does it feel to take the appearance of something that is otherly than human? So you had the experience of the horse on Broadway, and here you're acting as a godly avatar. So how is that?
That's a great question. Actually, I think our little rehearsal today taught me something new. When we switched avatars from one that gives me the sense of being the same height that I actually am in reality, there's a certain way that the character feels to me. And then when we jump to that larger character, and I'm sort of aware that the body of the character is not just taller, but just sort of larger, it sort of inspires a different sense of performance, which is really fun to put your actor imagination into that given circumstance, and to have to be given up an avatar body that sort of helps support that by also being a bit larger than life. And so that's kind of a neat thing that I'm discovering with what you can do in VR. And of course you can do it on stage as well. Certainly having the puppets that we had in Warhorse, they were so exquisitely made, and the rehearsal that we did to really embody them also helped to transform your point of view from your sort of normal everyday self into the characters. But there's ways that we can do that technically in VR that are really exciting. And then on a certain level, it also is the same process that you go through anytime that you're embodying a character, whether it's another human character or an animal or something that's supernatural, and that it really starts with your imagination and kind of letting that go in interesting places and trusting that all of the technical elements will work as resonators for that.
Well, thank you for that. It's very inspirational. I was wondering, I would like to ask a question also to our lovely director, Kiira. How meaningful is it for you to create a liaison between these Greek myths and this new medium? And of course, how do you feel this can have an effect on rereading those myths? Do you feel that in the future, VR could also be introduced in schools to teach these stories and history?
You're pulling from your professorial background there, Kiira. I don't think anyone gave a proper introduction for you, but I'll do that quickly now. Kiira is a professor of phenomenology from the understanding of our experiences, and was also with us as part of our collection in Venice for Loveseat, and is also a visual artist herself and a writer. So all of these mediums coming together, and yes, I think that great stories never go away. It's why we keep returning to the stories of Shakespeare. We will continue to return to the great mythological stories because they have beautiful truths in them that we cannot ever forget. I think that these are important stories that we learn from as humans, and we connect to this deep pain, especially in the Greek stories. Tremendous sacrifice and huge epic moments that help us remember why we're here on Earth as humans, having these incredible experiences. And now we have this ability to take storytelling into this new realm, into this new dimension. I mean, to be able to embody a character or an audience member that could potentially have a role in a production. This is something that we foresee in the future of our work, that we are really bringing the audience in to embody characters, to take elements on, to play with the story and the narrative, to get to interact more with our actors. We're having the opportunity to tell stories in a three-dimensional medium, which is akin to the reality in which we live. And who knows whether there are even other dimensions that we can explore beyond that. So, and I do think that, sure, we can use these for educational purposes and take these stories into classrooms. And I think the beauty right now is that people can be a part of these worlds from their very home, from the couch in their living rooms.
Well, that is terrific to see all the incredible potential VR has in all fields, and especially we can consider it now in lockdown of how many cinema goers are going to be persuaded to explore this magnificent tool. Thank you very much for having me here today to chat with you all about the making of your beautiful stories. And I'll leave it to Matty from CultureHub, and goodbye to you all.
Thank you for joining us from Milan, and we're sending lots of love over there to your people.
Thanks, Kiira. That was awesome.
Thanks, Maddie. That was an experiment.
Totally. Yeah, we're like, yeah, just an open rehearsal. And then we're like, okay, let's try everything.
Yeah, how many video feeds and how many virtual cameras can we get in there?
I know.
We tried.
Yeah, we got something. I mean, that was so great. So thanks, Kiira and Kiara and everybody who participated this afternoon. We've got another open rehearsal tonight, actually at 8 p.m. We sort of did these 2 times to get different folks in different time zones the ability to join. So if you want to come back at 8 p.m., we have a new moderator, isn't that right?
That's right. We will have Nick Fortuno, game designer from Playmatics in New York.
Great. And Kiira's team will also be working with us in experiments in digital storytelling for the next month, and we'll have work to share with a virtual audience and a live stream audience on May 16th.
That is correct. And so if they want to follow you guys on CultureHub NYC on Facebook, you guys can subscribe to our newsletter on our II website, ii.co, and we can be sending you updates. And for those of you with virtual headsets, we definitely want to bring some of you into our VR stage in May. So let us know if you'd like to be in there, and we would be welcome to have some of you in there exploring the virtual world with us and watching our actors perform live.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody, and thank you for watching and for participating. We'll see on the other side.